Yes, welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber, and today we have a most unusual and distinguished guest. I have just been updating myself on his latest information and bulletins. He is a person just like me and just like you, and in his online identity, he goes by Cobra Resistance. And I understand that Cobra means something, compressed. And welcome, Cobra.
Thank you.
Yeah, could you tell me what the Cobra stands for and what it means to you from a symbolic point of view or from an actual point of view?
Okay, Cobra stands for compression breakthrough, and compression breakthrough is a process when the light is coming from above to the surface of the planet and from below also to the surface of the planet. And when the light coming from above and light coming from below meets, those both lights, those both vectors meet on the surface, that's the moment of the compression breakthrough, and that's the moment of the event, the moment of the planetary liberation. And this is the code name I use that always invokes that energy of compression breakthrough. And of course, Cobra is an ancient symbol of Kundalini, the life force, the force of enlightenment. Some people might have other associations, but this is not why I chose this code name.
I see. Now, talking about the event, this is something that some of us in this movement or in this community have been following for decades. I know that in the 1980s, we would refer to it, or at least some of the groups that I was a part of at that time would call it, quote, the cosmic changeover. And it's where there would be a virtual paradigm shift and it would come very quickly. And so it's a concept that's been around, and I can remember it was going to happen in the 70s and it was going to happen in the 80s. And so could you tell us now about the event now in present time in 2013, 2014?
Okay, first I would like to explain a little bit of the background.
Okay.
This so-called event, or as you can call it, what was your name for it?
I'm sorry?
What was your name for the event?
Yeah, this was, well, when I first came across the concept in the early 1980s, it was cosmic changeover. That wasn't my name, but it was a name of groups that were working for something very similar.
Okay, so actually this was called the shift of the ages centuries ago by the mystery schools.
I see.
And it was known for all the time that there will become a moment when there will be a drastic breakthrough happening on planet Earth. The timing, the exact timing was not known, but the symbolic year which was given was always year 2000. This was the symbolic meaning, the symbolic number that was given hundreds and hundreds of years ago. People were expecting this to happen. But the exact moment, of course, is not possible to predict because of the free will of everybody involved. And after World War II, the Galactic Confederation has chosen to contact some people on the surface of the planet to give more details about that plan. And this was especially after 1953. There were many contacts, physical contacts that were being made on the surface of the planet. And those people were then trying to facilitate that change, and many were wishing for that to happen sooner. Of course, that was not possible. But then, as we were approaching the year 2000, we were getting very close. And then the Archons, the controlling forces, have realized that we're about to liberate the planet, and they have actually created the last possible blockage. That was the so-called Congo invasion, which happened in 1996, when many of the negative aliens, many negative ET races have invaded the subterranean parts on the upper crust level of this planet. especially through many deep underground military bases on the physical plane. And also on higher planes, there were also many reptilians coming on the etheric and astral plane. So this has delayed the process for about 2 decades. And now we're reaching the point where most consequences of that invasion has been already removed. So we are approaching the tipping point right now. And this is the reason why we're speaking of the event in the near future. I would not give you any dates, any speculations, because that would only be a speculation.
Right. Just a technical detail. You mentioned 1996, and you said a something invasion. What did you call it? Something?
It is Congo invasion because the main force was happening through Congo in Central Africa.
I see. And who were these parties that were invading at that time?
Okay, I will go a little bit into details of this because I think it's time. Basically, this was arranged through black nobility families in Italy and through their Jesuit network, and then through Knights of Malta, and from Knights of Malta through various negative military contacts throughout the planet. And as you probably know, Congo area was an area of very drastic conflict and genocide. Rwanda genocide, which happened a little bit before 1996. And that area was, I would say, a very negative black vortex. So what they did, they actually triggered, I think it was 12 underground nuclear explosions, which created a negative portal. And then through teleportation chambers, many of those reptilian beings entered through the subterranean bases in Congo, and then also through other places around the world through those deep underground military bases. For example, Pine Gap in Australia, Area 51, Dulce. You have many of those bases around the planet that were quite active at that time. So that infiltration then also happened on the higher energy planes, on the etheric and astral planes, and this is the reason why most of the channels lost their contact with Galactic Confederation, and they were starting channeling nonsense. If you compare the spirituality books which were published before 1996 and after, you will definitely find a drastic decrease of quality.
Right, and so in terms of the third dimension political scene at that time, that was the Bill Clinton administration, wasn't it?
Yes. I will explain. Actually, the reptilians that came first didn't want to interfere the political process because they wanted to be undetected by the mass of the human population. So their infiltration into the political system was gradual, and the vehicle they used was the Bush administration, which came later.
I see. Now, not to jump ahead, but we had a very unusual meeting of the three former U.S. presidents, Bush, Clinton, and Obama all met in Africa about 2 months ago. And it was a very unusual meeting because they all met there at once and they could say, what was it about? And now perhaps the reason is unfolding because today all of the presidents are meeting in South Africa for the funeral of Nelson Mandela. We were down there. I was down there in 2011. We went to Mandela's house and where he was born and saw all of that. And it seems to be sort of an orchestrated world moment. Does this have anything to do with, because it's in Africa, with that portal?
No, actually the situation is that the cabal needs, they are in a hurry. They need a certain plan to be devised because there was a great progress of the light forces, so they need to meet immediately, and they need an excuse for the presidents and most of the politicians to meet. And this Mandela funeral was very handy. As you probably know, Mandela is already dead for about 6 months. And they were just having this moment of funeral as their ace up on their sleeve for the right moment to use. And this right moment is now. And this is why why this is all this media pump about Mandela right now, because they now can invite all the presidents of various countries and all the high-end politicians there, so they can devise a plan, or shall we say, the master controllers of the cabal can impose the plan to the politicians so they can implement them. They can then implement that plan in their own countries. And this is what's happening right now.
Yeah, so basically, the Mandela funeral is a psyop and a false flag and part of the next phase of the New World Order.
Yes, they just need some excuse to meet in public, and then they can have their own talks in the private.
Right. Now, you've talked about all of this happening. In fact, you issued a release yesterday, the Financial Reset and Event Update, in which you document all of the various setups that are happening for dumping the dollar, which has been the control. The U.S. dollar has been the control mechanism of the New World Order matrix. And so could you walk our audience through what starting with the 1996 reptilian portal and how this integrates with the dollar and with the event and what's happening now? If you could just weave that tapestry for us.
Okay, there are a few phases of that process. The first phase was from 1996 to 2001. It was the silent phase of the invasion. And in the year 2001, those reptilians became more active in the political scene by the 9/11 false flag. Their plan was to completely suppress the human population into fear state, but their plan didn't work. Actually, the 9/11 was the first sign for many people that something is going on, that something is wrong. So it was actually that false flag backfired on them. And then, of course, event went their own way up to the point we are now. And thanks to the efforts of all the liberation movement on the planet, there is much awareness of their plans, and their plans are being prevented as they are being created. And this integration of US dollar as a world reserve currency is actually a result of many forces. Some of them are good and some of them are not so good. There are many agendas being played right now. One faction of the cabal wants to survive the coming changes and have decided to cut all ties with the Illuminati faction. The Illuminati faction, the Bushes, the Kissinger, Rockefellers and company, they're the ones who were actually behind the practical implementation of the current financial system. They were the ones who were interested in having the US dollar as a reserve currency because this was the way for the US military to keep the world under control. And the reason why they wanted to have the US military to keep the world under control was to prevent any positive ET intervention. Because then the US military could have a network of military bases around the planet, monitor all extraterrestrial activity, and prevent any type of positive contact. But now we are getting into the next phase of this scenario when the Rothschilds are willing to cut all ties with this faction. And they are the ones who are trying to infiltrate the formation of the new financial system. And they have teamed up with the Rothschilds to do that.
That infiltration. Wait, you said that the Rothschilds are willing to cut ties with
the Jesuits. The Jesuits are cutting the ties with the Illuminatis. That's the Kissingers, the Bushes.
Oh, I see.
Rockefellers.
I see.
But the Rothschilds are teaming up with the Jesuits to infiltrate the new financial system and hijack it. Of course, they will not be successful, but that's what they want.
Right. Now, could you, for our audience, explain why it is that you believe that the Jesuits are a force and an influence here in this scenario?
Basically, it goes beyond the Jesuits. There are old dynasties in Italy, mainly in Rome, some of them originating from Roman times, that kept control of the Catholic Church since its creation. And they were using the Catholic Church as a mind control mechanism. Actually, the Catholic Church was created, the current Catholic cult was created in the year 325. By somebody called Constantine the Great. This is how they call him. He was one of the major archons and a master mind programmer. He actually summoned all the bishops and forced them to sign a certain contract to spread his version of programming cult. And everything that was opposing, or everybody that was opposing that, was killed or erased from history. And all the books which were opposing.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. You said, yeah.
After this was destroyed, actually, that mind programming cult was programming generations after generations, and the Jesuits were just one arm which was created in the 16th century. But they were more dangerous because the Pope gave them allowance to conduct trade. And this is the reason why they were able to create Illuminati as their financial arm. And you all know how far that went.
Right. So what you're saying is that the Jesuits are sort of a secret spear of the Roman Empire that has continued and morphed since Rome into the Catholic Church, into the Jesuits, into the Illuminati. But,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Now we have a wider historical picture. Okay. So, what are the major players now that relate to the plan to bring down the dollar, but also relate to the plan to the event? Because it seems like the event is in favor of the people, but aren't a lot of the people going to be hurt by bringing down the dollar?
The plan of the light forces is not to bring down the dollar, but to create a fair and just new financial system.
I see.
The plan of the cabal is to bring down the dollar.
I see.
And they are using the same new infrastructure, but for a different purpose.
I see.
So this is actually an infiltration of the Jesuits in the plan of the light forces.
I see.
But when the event happens, the Jesuits will be also arrested. The Rothschilds will be included in the arrest. All those agents will be removed from their positions. And the new financial system will include the dollar in the basket of currencies.
Right.
But the value might be revalued based on the productivity of the United States, real productivity of the United States.
Yeah. Now, before getting into those technicalities, perhaps some of the audience is going to say, well, that's all very well and good, but what are your sources? You seem very sure of this information. Is this information the product of your many years of research? Is this information that you're getting from secret networks within the clandestine services? Is this information that you're getting interdimensionally? Where are you getting all of this information?
Okay, I have very many sources of information. First, I have a certain connection with the resistance movement. I will speak about this later if there will be time.
Sure.
I also have some people in, I would say, all major interest groups on the planet that give me intel. And also I had my physical experience with the Pleiadians long time ago.
I see.
And this is also one source of my information.
Very
so
good.
I have a mixture of that, and this gives me a pretty much accurate picture of what's going on this planet.
Very good. Um, would you like to say what your nationality is, or is that not relevant?
It's not relevant. It's not important, and it's not important.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, having established this, and I just wanted to establish that just for the quadrants, for the minds of the listeners to get them settled. Please unfold what the event is and how you see possibly all of this unfolding in the times to come.
Okay, the event is actually has physical and non-physical parts. The physical parts of the event are first the reset of the financial system. The reset of the financial system will happen electronically. It will be that the resistance movement will actually, it has already put a virus in the computer network which interconnects the major banks in the current financial system. They can just remotely trigger a shutdown of the banking system. And this is what they will do. The reason why they will do it is that so that the cabal will not be able to access funds for their operations. The second reason is that the whole financial system needs to be reset. And this reset will include a few things. The first one will be the writing off of most of debt on this planet, which was actually an artificial creation. The second one will be implementation of checks and balances so that the new financial system will be fair and transparent. And dismantling also of some of the institutions which were not in people's favor. For example, the Federal Reserve, this will be dismantled. When the banks reopen, those who will stay, those who will survive, those banks who reopen will be supporting the new financial system. And those banks who collapse, people who have accounts in those banks will receive the refund of their money through the collateral accounts. And the collateral accounts are simply money which was stolen by the cabal from the world. And it's a huge amount of money. And this money will be given back to the people, some of it directly, and some of it through certain projects that will bring the boost to economy, will bring new technologies, and the new economic growth. This is what's happening on the physical plane. Then we will have also on the physical plane arrests of the cabal. The law enforcement agencies throughout the planet will arrest those who were committing crimes against humanity. The resistance movement has all the evidence of everything that happened. Nothing will be hidden. And people who went beyond what is human, what is tolerable and acceptable in a civilized society will have to answer some tough questions. There will be no witch hunts, but there needs to be a fair trial to everybody, and there needs to be some balancing taking place for the human society to heal and progress into the new era. On the non-physical plane, we will have huge energy waves coming from the galactic central sun. And those who are more spiritually oriented will be able to feel that. And of course, the media will be, the control, the censorship of the media will be removed. And the true information will be coming through the mass media. This is very important because the masses respond to the mass media. And when the masses begin to awaken, then we can have a planetary transformation. And this will set conditions for the first contact. The first contact is actually a diplomatic interaction between human race and other positive races. And that diplomatic contact can only happen sometime after the event because human race needs to be ready intellectually and emotionally to understand and appreciate that interaction. There are many forces that will be taking place in this interaction. First, before the official first contact happens, there will be some, I would say, individual sightings and contacts between especially Pleiadians and those individuals who will be open to that interaction, private individuals. And then those private individuals will go to the mass media telling their story, and this will prepare humanity for the official contact. The official contact will happen most likely through the United Nations, and I will explain something about the United Nations here. The United Nations was a project of the light forces which has been hijacked by the cabal. When the cabal is removed, the United Nations will be restructured in a way to allow them to be representatives of humanity. And all nations will be able to send their representatives to the United Nations to be included in the process of the first contact. And from my information, the Galactic Confederation was quite active through some people in the United Nations to prepare the climate for this first contact already. And
Hello? Hello?
contact.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's just your audio stopped for a second. You were talking about that the Galactic Confederation has been in contact with some people already.
I was speaking about first contact lately.
Yeah, yeah. Now, could I ask you a question? A colleague of mine here in Canada, Stanley Fulham, was a lifelong NORAD officer, and in 2010 he published a book in July saying that representatives of the Regional Galactic Governance Council, the Pleiadians, the Alpha Centaurians, would show their ships over New York on October 13, 2010. And in fact, on that day, there were UFOs flying all over New York. And he said that the Pleiadians would land in the UN and speak there in 2014 or 2015. Is this part of that?
It is, yes, it's part of the same plan.
Okay.
I would not give any time frames, but the overall plan is correct. Yes, they are. There is actually a plan for a small Pleiadian ship to land on the lawn in front of the United Nations building in New York.
Okay. Good. Well, good. So actually, pieces of this have been coming in. For example, through Stanley Fulham, who published his book in the summer of 2010, and then we did interviews with him, and he predicted that the UFOs over New York, the UFOs over Moscow and London in January 2011, and then he laid out the whole plan of the Pleiadians to land and speak at the UN, and then for the technology of this Regional Galactic Governance Council to clean the ecology of the Earth, to clean the environment. Is that something that you've heard about?
Yes, it's the plan. This is exactly the plan they have.
Uh-huh.
So this is the next phase after the event.
Oh, good. Good. So this has been coming down to different people and different parties in different ways then.
Yes, actually it's the same plan, and there are many contactees that receive parts of the plan.
Yes. Also, there was another source that I interviewed called the Andromeda Council through a gentleman named Tolik, who was a contactee, and he gave some information that ships, Andromedan ships, would be landing at some point. Have you heard of that or anything like that?
Yes, actually the Andromedans will be coming later, in the later phase.
Okay.
Yes. simply because the Pleiadians are genetically and physically the closest to the human race.
Yes.
And they need to be introduced first, and later other races will follow.
Yes, yes. Now, what happened to a Stanley Fulham was that he got a fast acting. We interviewed him in the summer of 2010, right after his book came out, and then he got a fast acting pancreatic cancer, such that by December he was dead, and he had to issue a final message at the beginning of December, reiterating the whole plan. Obviously, because there were forces that attacked him through bioweapons.
Exactly.
Have you come across this before?
I would say most of the contactees have been silenced one way or the other.
Uh-huh. Now, one thing that I've heard indirectly that was attributed to you that said that on November 23rd, 2013, there was a shift in the frequency, I think coming from the Galactic Center. Is that correct? And could you
Uh,
talk more about that?
yes, actually, what we did, we opened the so-called ion portal. An ion portal was the moment of great cosmic importance because it was the moment when a certain energy wave came from M87 galaxy through the center of our galaxy and then to our solar system. Astrologically speaking, it was the moment of the exact Uranus-Pluto square, and that signifies the moment of the greatest tension which begins to be released through a conscious revolution, especially concerning the financial system. And as you probably know, a few hours after the opening of the portal, there was this historic agreement with Iran, which was not possible for years before that. So it's a big breakthrough.
Right, right. And so, on the one hand, the historic agreement with Iran is a breakthrough, but you're saying that all of the gathering around Mandela in South Africa is really a smokescreen. Is
Yes,
that a characterization that you would make?
yes.
Right. And I'm so could you so could you take us more then into the unfoldment of the event and how you see these different forces uh, uh, modulating and moving forward into 2014?
Um, I cannot give any time frames for various reasons because human mind has always a tendency to get attached to a certain time frame. It's a very dynamic situation right now, and things can change any moment. It can still take quite much of a time, but it can also change in a minute. Because, for example, the developments that happened over this weekend were not expected for months, and things that usually take months happened in a span of a few hours. It was really going very fast. And I expect the final victory to be happening very fast. When it starts to happen, nobody and nothing will be able to stop it. And it will take everybody by surprise. It will not be predicted before. And it will be something that has to be that way, especially for the reason so that the cabal cannot take any countermeasures. They will be completely taken by surprise. And the key element here is the light forces taking control over the mass media, because this is what shapes human consciousness right now on this planet. And only then can human beings be ready for the first contact.
Right. Could you tell us more about the light forces, what you mean by the light forces?
Okay, we have light forces on the surface of the planet, we have light forces below the surface of the planet, and we have light forces above the surface of the planet. So if we start with the physical light forces on the surface of the planet, we have various secret groups that are working and have been working for quite some time for liberation of the planet. You will not read about them in the mainstream media You can read a little bit about them in the alternative media, but most of it is still undercover. There are various dragon groups, for example. Some of them are completely positive, some of them are mixed, and some of them are actually negative. You have the Templar groups, again, some of them are extremely positive, some of them are mixed, and some of them are negative. And you have some other groups that I will not even name, which are of a very positive nature. I can just briefly mention one of them, and this is called the Brotherhood of the Star.
Hmm.
There are some groups which are working completely behind the scenes. For example, there is one group which is in a very remote location, hours and hours away from civilization without any cell phones. So it's off the grid completely.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have, of course, then we have the resistance movement below the surface of the Earth, living in the physical underground bases, together with the so-called Agartha network. The resistance movement is more like the liberation part, the fighters for the freedom part, and you have the Agartha network, which is more of a spiritual aspect of this. And of course, above the surface of the planet, we have various positive extraterrestrial races that all together form the Galactic Confederation.
Mm. And so, um, how will the sovereignty of the human race be protected in all of this?
Basically, this is one of the main reasons why it's taking so long, because the light forces do not invade. They need to be invited, and they have been invited. And it will be partnership and dialogue throughout the whole process. So nothing will be enforced upon humanity. Each step will be negotiated, and through this, the sovereignty of humanity will be preserved.
Right, right. Now, I realize that we've been defining and going into uh, some of the nooks and crannies, but just to go back, could you show us what the event is and sort of unpack it for us? What exactly is the event, and unpack it for us?
Okay, the event is the moment of the breakthrough, the moment of liberation, because under quarantine status for the last 25,000 years, and this status has been imposed upon humanity by the negative ET races. So we have been in a closed system, and you probably know from physics that a closed system tends to develop entropy, more and more chaos. And this is exactly what we have now on this planet. If you put any living organism in a small box, it will begin to deteriorate. And this is what's happening with humanity. We have been closed in this small box for too long. So the event is the moment when this box begins to be opened. It's the beginning of the opening process of that little box. The first light begins to shine inside and expose what is there. So then we have to sort out what is in that box. We have to remove the deformed, deviated parts of humanity. We have to heal the rest of humanity. We have to restore the ecosystem, and all this will be done in partnership with positive light forces that are now beyond the surface of this planet. They will be behind the scenes. They will not be in the forefront. They will be like advisors. They will be teachers. They will be instructors, but they will not have the active role in this at first. Humanity will still need to learn their own lessons and shape their own destiny. They will have support, they will have guidance, yes, but they will not be. This will not happen without active participation of every human being.
Right. Now, how can uh, people who identify themselves as light workers or awakened souls or progressive people, uh, but who may not be completely attuned uh, with this information and may just be becoming aware of it. That is that there's a plan and there's a focus and there's an actual goal here. Uh, how can they become involved in this and keep aware of it? Is this is this telepathic? Is this meditation? Is this how does this work?
Okay, spiritual awakening is a very personal and individual process, and it happens in its own way for everybody. So I will not give any guidelines here, but I would say that everybody who begins to be awakened begins to have this ideal of the coming golden age, one way or the other. And this is our goal as a common goal of all light workers, light warriors, awakened people. And that can include for different people different things. It can be first contact, it can be new technologies, it can be love and light for everybody, it can be all parts of the same process. And each human being can do whatever he can to bring forward this goal, to manifest it as soon as possible. And there are various ways we can do that. So we have blogs, we have media, we can post YouTube videos, we can create music, we can awaken each other, support each other in various ways.
Right, right. And so, for example, yourself, how do you see yourself in this process?
I'm a spokesperson for the resistance movement. This is my
I
role
see.
before the event. After the event, this will change. But before the event, this is why I'm here.
I see. And 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 so, uh, how can all of us sort of support the energy behind leading up to the event? I mean, what can we do?
There are many things we can do. Uh, the first one is spreading the truth, because spreading the truth sends out harmonious resonance waves through human minds. Human minds have been brainwashed so much. There is so much disinformation out there, coming from the mass media and coming from disinfo agents to the alternative media. So each little gem of truth is worth a lot. And each individual that spreads that creates another additional positive resonance wave through the minds of people. And this is one of the most important things to do, to spread the truth, to expand the truth, to support the truth. And the second thing is, of course, you can, of course, join the weekly liberation meditations that we have. And they are designed specifically to help and assist and support the clearing of the non-physical planes, removing all those reptilians I was speaking before about, and also to bring the breakthrough on the physical plane. And mass meditations have great power when there are enough people supporting them.
Yeah.
When the critical mass is reached for the mass meditations, we can actually influence geopolitical situation quite much, as scientific studies have also proven.
Now, I came across a website which actually talked about those weekly meditations. What could you talk about that, or where is that particular website?
Okay, this was most likely my blog, and you can easily find my blog if you Google Cobra Portal 2012.
Okay.
It is quite, I think it's not that difficult to find.
Right. Good. Um, uh, yes. Now, uh, so this is what you're really saying is that there's an integrated, multi-dimensional plan, coordinated plan that actually intelligent entities from many different dimensions, from Agartha, the layers right beneath the surface of the earth, light workers in the human population, the white hats, the ethical regional galactic governance councils, the regional, ethical ETs, and also spiritual beings, dimensional beings, are actually working on that you say this is the shift of the ages, and that this is actually happening now, and we're coming up to the culmination of it because we've made the turn around the great galactic sun, and that culminated in 2012. Is that more or less what you're saying?
I would completely agree with everything except the timing, because
I
it's a
see.
process. The
It's
Stargate, the time window for the whole transformation started
yeah,
in 1975. It will be over in,
1975.
it was the beginning, and it will be over in 2025. It's a 50-year
Oh,
period of the galactic
20,
pulse. And that,
2025.
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay, good.
That's the time window when the transformation needs to be complete. In that, on those 50 years, the transformation needs to start. We
Yeah,
need to go through the transformation, and needs to be complete by 2025.
yeah. Now, I can find some correspondence there as to the 2025. Several years ago, I was at a conference in Mallorca, Spain, and I was there with um, uh, a number of speakers and one artist, Francisca Blasquez, that had been given some information. She's of the dimensionalismo school, and she had said that she had been told that the landing of heaven on earth will happen in 2025. And so we did a thing called El Grito de Mallorca, which means the shout of Mallorca, kind of the cry of, it's kind of like a victory cry for 2025. What happened in 1975?
Actually, it was an opening of a very important portal on this planet that opened on May 25th, 1975. And it was a flash of energy which actually started the purification process. And this purification process actually brought to the surface the awareness of the Cabal, because the Cabal before 1975 was doing the same things behind the scenes, and nobody knew about it, except very few individuals. After 1975, you begin to have books coming out, uh, exposed in the dark, and also books coming out very much inspirational, bringing in the light. So the whole process actually started then, and it just accelerated. And now we have passed a very important milestone last year, and we're in the peak time where it's actually the most probable time for the event to happen. We don't need to wait until 2025.
Yeah,
This is the one moment when the whole transformation will be complete.
yeah,
It's time now for us to make the main breakthrough.
yeah. No, right, but I've been saying to audiences, talking about the positive timeline, 2013 to 2025. But so I'm just remarking on that coincidence of the same thing. Now, May 25th, 1975. There's a quatrain of Nostradamus where he talks about, quote, the beginning of the fight of good against evil in 1973, which is when you had Watergate. You had all this things going. Do you? Is there anything there, or?
Yes, there is. Actually, it's a part of another underground process. Basically, what happened in the 60s, after 1965 or 1966, it was a certain very important astrological configuration, Uranus conjunction Pluto, which brought the hippie revolution. It was the first massive uprising against the system, against the cabal, against the establishment. It was later suppressed and manipulated through the artificially introduced drugs, which actually hijacked the whole movement. And then later, when this was not enough, there was I would say, mini invasion of the negative forces from the Andromeda galaxy through those deep underground bases in the early 70s. And that mini invasion peaked in 1973. And this was the actual reason why the Apollo program was terminated before it was time for it to be terminated.
I
Because the
see.
Andromedans said it has to end, and it had to end.
I see. Very, very interesting. Um, well, uh, so now I'm just looking at your latest update now, and you're you're asking people to vote there, and you're saying the that there is an option, because that the event, one design of the event is that it will not happen until, say, the lower astrals are cleared out. Am I correct? Or
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and
More or less. Yes.
yeah, and so you say the first option is to trigger the event as soon as possible. And because a special task force has asked if we can conduct a poll to determine what the opinion of the surface population, that is kind of the ground crew, us down here, is about their plan. The results of the poll would not determine the course of their actions, but give them priceless feedback for them to be able to adjust their plan to accommodate the needs of the human population on the surface. Now, the first option is to trigger the event as soon as possible, though this might pose a remote but potentially grave risk to life, physical safety of ourselves and our loved ones. And the second option is to wait for the safest moment for the event to occur, even if this means a significant longer wait. Why would anybody want to trigger the event as soon as possible?
Because many human beings are suffering tremendously under the current system of the cabal.
Right.
And nobody is helping them.
I see.
There are many people with terminal illnesses, and at the same time we have cures for all those illnesses, and the cabal is suppressing them. And we can go on and on and on. Children dying from starvation. When the event happens, all this will be taken care of.
Right.
And this might be a very good reason why the event should happen as soon as possible.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
My opinion is the event needs to happen at the right moment, and that is before the non-physical planes are cleared. Maybe not just exactly at this moment, but when all the factors are coming together, it needs to be pretty soon.
Right. Now,
so I am actually supporting this special task force in their own determination.
Right.
We might not be completely ready, but we can be ready very soon.
Right. Now, one of the feedbacks that I continually hear, and I'm sure you may have heard this also, that I hear is, oh, they're always talking about this and then nothing ever happens. How do you feel about that? And I consider that to be a meme, but it's a fairly common meme. And so that's very discouraging, because it discourages one from even posting information. How does one deal with that meme?
Actually, it's very simple. It's a psychological response to something that never happened before. So everything that happened in human history had to happen for the first time. Mm-hmm. For example, before Mount Everest was climbed, it was impossible until somebody did it. Mm-hmm. So it's the same with the event. Whenever we go beyond a certain psychological barrier, whenever we go beyond a certain impossibility belief system, we created a breakthrough, and this is what's happening now. I cannot give a proof for the event because the event did not happen yet. The proof will be the event itself when it happens. And it is the same story for every great achievement anybody had in their lives. Until you are there, you are not there, and you cannot prove it. When you're there, you're there. It's a psychological mind game that people play. It's not important. What is important is that we focus ourselves to our goal, make a decision, and there are very specific ways to manifest our decision, our dedication, and the repetition of that process will bring the manifestation of our goal. It's a scientific fact. But it might take some time, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. And it might take some iterations. That is,
I would,
uh, uh, just from the description, it seems to be dynamic, a very dynamic situation going on. For example, you were just describing the events of this past weekend, where you said there have been some drastic developments regarding the event during the last weekend. Special Task Force of the Resistance, codenamed RM2M, was within 45 minutes of triggering the event on Saturday after the Archons, physical and non-physical, went a little bit too far with some of their actions. The Archons backed off at the last moment to prevent the event from being triggered and were forced to negotiate their own safety and survival. In order to survive a little longer, they were forced to deconstruct Dom 33, their plan of retaliation when the event happens. So that seems like, there's almost like World War. Is this a trigger to World War III? Actually,
no. World War III will not happen. It has been prevented.
Okay. Now, so that what they're saying is deconstruct Dom 33, their plan of retaliation when the event happens. So that sounds pretty drastic. Dom 33, a plan of retaliation. Could you walk us through that?
Okay, actually, it was their plan to create as much havoc as possible. This plan included World War III a few years ago.
I see.
And then, of course, the resistance movement removed their access to nuclear weapons. I will not discuss how they did it, but they did it. And as you can see this year, they also crippled their ability to start a war in Syria and Iran.
Right. Right.
So now the whole plan has been deconstructed.
Right. And you also go on to say they were also forced to surrender full protection of the top level people within the cabal, who were until now able to conduct their deeds with physical archons covering their back. So it sounds like the power sphere of the cabal is shrinking.
Exactly.
So this is really about the light, the dark, spheres of power, soul power. Could you talk about how you've seen monitoring this over these last years or year? How you've seen the cabal shrink, or the fight go back and forth?
It is a gradual process. The cabal's power is being decreased daily by the actions of the light forces. And it goes in full correspondence with the amount of awareness that is present on the surface of the planet about the actions of the cabal and of the presence of the light forces. And each time there is a major activation, planetary activation, there is a big decrease in cabal's power. And of course, then there are the unexpected events like what happened during this weekend. And then the cabal's power is decreased drastically.
It sounds to me like your voice may be having like you may need to rest your voice. Is that
exactly.
Is that the case? Yeah. Well, look, we are very, very grateful for your having come on today and for you having shared this. And we hope that in the future, as events develop, you will be able to come on again.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity, and I would wish everybody a victory of the light.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.